Hello, 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 and welcome to the Unnamed Cybersecurity Show. We have Bob from New Jersey, and we have Chris out of Detroit, and you've got local favorite Carl out of New York. How are you guys doing today?
We're
Sorry.
better than Matt.
Matt.
Yeah.
What's that?
We're better than
missing
Matt.
Oh, yeah, I know. I heard he was taken over by a bunch of mole people. They put him to they dragged him underground and have named him his king.
Well, at the bare minimum, I saw he had the 4 kids and he was buried under laundry this week. So maybe it's close. He might be close.
Laundry.
I'll be honest. I've never seen somebody get kidnapped so many times and survive.
Well, at least you got insurance for that.
I only have $50K, dude. I ain't gonna pay. They ain't going very far.
Well, down in Pittsburgh, it probably does go further.
Oh,
Shots fired! Great. Everybody in Central Pennsylvania just canceled us. Thanks for that, Carl.
It's more. It's more Matt saying thank you.
No,
folks, if you're in the Pennsylvania area and you felt offended by me, support Matt when he comes back in. So
I'll save this. I love smallmouth bass fishing, Pennsylvania. I love Three Rivers. All right, let's go.
All right. So today, Chris, everybody has been waiting for us to talk about this. Last week we were hinting about this. Would you like to talk about that little Asian issue that was going on?
Whoa, North Korean. Thank you very much.
I wanted to make sure of it.
Yeah, so I know everybody's been on the edge of the seat since last week. So let's talk about North Korea. Why should we talk about North Korea? Well, one, they're considered a nation state, meaning that they are a large funded hacking group, but this has nothing really to do with that. This actually has to do with an American citizen and a Ukrainian helping fund the nuclear program in North Korea, which is kind of wild because
you need money.
Well, I mean, everybody needs money. We're not supposed to be doing that, but this is absolutely insane. So this person in Arizona and this Ukrainian person between October of 2020 and October 2023, I'm not going to say their names because that really doesn't matter. They helped North Korean IT workers acquire valid identities of real citizens in the United States and get jobs in something like 350 companies. And they try to get in the government as well. Does that seem to be a problem for anybody, for a country that's under sanctions and has nation state?
You said basically this nation state put their thumb on the scale for these 300 plus people to help them get jobs. Do we know if they were successful? Did they get employees?
Absolutely.
Okay.
This is where it gets wild.
It wasn't more. It was more than a reference letter. They actually got these people.
They got their jobs, and the wild thing is this U.S. this U.S. citizen and this Ukrainian, which I think is actually living in the United States, they would get the laptops from these companies. So these are remote workers. They would get the laptops, set them up in laptop farms, and allow the North Koreans to remote into them so it looked like they were coming from the United States. Now, some of them, they couldn't do that. So they shipped the U.S. issued laptop that was sent to them to the person in North Korea to try to use like a VPN to actually work. They set up financial accounts for these IT workers. The US-based facilitators did receive shares of proceeds. They created accounts on popular job sites for all of these workers. They helped them with background checks to try to avoid
IT workers don't have access to a lot of information at these companies, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's not a big deal.
Yeah, nothing.
Is it?
Nothing. Oh, yeah, just said there. Sorry, I'm doing.
One of the workers is coming over to Chris because he was able to hire one of them really on a discount.
Okay, that's what happens when you do live recordings.
It's always exciting, folks.
Anyway, the North Korean workers since they're in IT jobs, they had access to a lot of stuff.
Everything, the keys to the kingdom.
Amazon Prime delivery. Sorry, everyone. So nobody else is here. It's just me. So anyway, I may have been a little scared on that one, so we'll just go with that. Skipped a beat a little bit. Okay. Anyway, so they set up these laptop farms. They ship the laptops to people. They're being charged. Clearly, this is very illegal, right? And now they use like fake. They acquire credentials too for U.S. people to kind of fake the names and things like that for some of them. I mean, apparently this was some very big companies and some government entities. They did get rejected by some, but I mean, this just violated like U.S. law, U.S. sanctions, UN sanctions. And
So Chris, were these guys actually in the U.S. or were they like they were remote IT people? They were set up as remote IT people.
They were getting remote jobs, and the laptops were being shipped to this place in Arizona, and they had multiple houses. They were literally just setting these laptops up in laptop farms. Allowing the North Koreans to remote into them.
Distribution center.
Yep. So because normally when you get a job in IT and you're remote, they send you a laptop.
Sure.
So it's got all their security protocols on there, all their security that we would set up, but you're supposed to be in the United States. You're supposed to be working on it. Well, they were just setting up ways to remote into that. So the people were still in North Korea and they were remoting in. Now, in certain situations, they did ship the laptop overseas to somebody in North Korea and then they used a VPN to get back in. But like, obviously, big problem, right? The danger that these companies put themselves in by getting tricked like this is incredible. So
that's wild.
Yeah.
And 2020, there was there was an incredible shortage of workers anywhere. There's still a shortage of IT workers. So people are like, oh, here's somebody. We're going to get John.
Yeah. From 2020 to 2023. So you know that 2020, 2021 hiring was a boom.
3 years.
Like remote working. Yeah, 3 years. But for at least 2 of those years into 2022, before some of the slowdown started happening with hiring, I mean, it was crazy. They would even like fake like virtual interviews and put somebody else on the meeting to get somebody else hired, to get one of these North Korean people hired. It's wild. So this is actually being charged. The FBI put out an alert about this. The DOJ is involved. I mean, it's insane. And they say things like, hey, you know what? You should verify that remote workers' identity through verify.gov, which you're supposed to. Obviously, in 2020, that was a little difficult for some people. They just probably skip steps and things like that. But it just highlights like how dangerous it is when you hire remote workers, how you have to really be careful about that. Because I mean, these guys set up quite the elaborate scheme to get around this.
When you think about it, I mean, this could happen to your company, to anybody's company, where they're saying, "Oh, I mean, well, you're putting out for a tech, or you're putting out for an office admin, and without proper vetting, you may see somebody, especially with deep fakes. I'm going to talk about that in a second. But with the ability to deep fake, you could have somebody virtually who's not who they appear to be.
Yeah. And I mean, think about the positions these people were in. They were IT professionals, right? So you have intellectual property.
Yep.
Well, you did.
You did. Well, it was
trade secrets,
but it's no longer a secret.
Yeah. And they wouldn't probably have shame to sell to China at that point. So now they could double dip, right? They could steal from you, maybe sell it to China on the back end, or some other country that has lax, laws for that stuff. But yeah, it's crazy. It's a crazy story. It'll be interesting to see how this goes out because they released the names of the people, but they haven't really released all the information on it. What I talked about is pretty much what's out there right now. But yeah, so
are they at least arresting the laptops?
I
mean, when you look at a scam this large, honestly, when law enforcement finally breaks it, or they like to, to do the perp walk, and unfortunately, all they're going to have is this laptop farm that they're bringing. They just seized equipment. It's like you realize that there has to be some U.S. based people that are there that we should be seeing some guys in handcuffs by now.
I just got a text message. Hey, do you need a job to work remotely? Literally just came in.
What? There's an opportunity now.
Nothing's listening to us, guys. Everything's fake. They say they do say it generated about $6.8 million at least. So 3 years, $6.8 million, not too bad. I would have wanted to be on the strike team that went into these houses that had the laptop farms just to see how they had the laptops just stacked everywhere. Like honestly,
They probably stacked the
That would be
laptops, and if they were
incredible.
locked down, put a IP-based KVM on it and put the person to work.
Yeah, they said they use remote desktop in some cases, so they got around
Yeah.
like probably restrictions. But yeah, just a wild story. Super interesting.
Yeah, but dude, think about it. All these companies that had these foreign nationals in their systems, what else did they do? This could play out for years.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. With them being a nation state, to Bob's point, who says they didn't put a back door into some of these larger companies? And they did not. They didn't name any of the Fortune 500 companies. They said that there were Fortune 500 companies involved in hiring these workers, which, I mean, that doesn't shock us. So,
speaking of backdoors for a minute, you were at the event last 2 weeks ago with me, and we were one of the speakers was talking about doing his risk assessment at it was an energy facility, I believe, and they were going through and assessing everything that was in there. And he's in the control room, and in the corner of the control room, there's this PC sitting on the floor plugged in, and said, "Oh, well, we don't touch that machine. We don't know what it does." So, it could, there could be all kinds of stuff like that laying around. There's a little machine sitting here, and it's just their access point. But yeah, the fact that this guy was in a restricted facility and there was a machine sitting in the corner with nobody had a clue what it did was a little red flag.
All I can think of is a movie right now where you see the big red button and it says, "Don't push the big red button." The first thing you do is run over and push the big red button.
Damn right.
So,
yeah.
All right.
But going back into deep fakes, Bob, you had a story that recently hit here.
Yeah, this goes back to January when it started. Apparently, there was a school principal down in Maryland, Pikesville, Maryland, that got suspended from his got not suspended, but got put on administrative leave because somebody released a deepfake video of him saying racist comments, and the parents and other people went to the school board, and this guy was suspended for several months. And an investigation ensued, and the Pikes County Police Department and I guess the FBI was involved, and they determined that it really was a deepfake video. It was good enough to satisfy a lot of people, but this guy had to defend himself, and he didn't do anything wrong. It wasn't like he had a hand in anything and of doing anything wrong, but he had to go and defend it. And even the school board at this point, they've reinstated him, but they never apologized. It was one of the things I saw. But it was just so easy to turn somebody's life upside down.
Well, the wild thing, it was the athletic director that did it. Like,
I didn't get that one.
Yeah, it was the athletic director.
They satisfied who got it.
Yeah, they arrested the athletic director.
Jeez.
So that's what workplace
harassment's
going to turn into, is we're going to deepfake people and try to get them fired.
So you're going to get harassed by your
you gotta be nice to everybody these days.
This kind of highlights though the year that we're in. Yeah. I played around a little bit with deepfakes. I think we all have. I deepfake my voice on some videos that I created for things because I recorded it. And if you really want I've done enough videos at this point. If you want my audio, you can steal it. So whatever. But it is wild that companies right now have not pledged to basically label every piece of AI related content around the election within 60 or 90 days, because it's going to get crazy this year with the way the AIs went. There's going to be so much fake stuff out there that, as far as media, social media, traditional media, whatever, if we see somebody saying something, especially around the election, they can kind of tell if it's AI generated. It's not perfect, but they can label a lot of AI generated content. They should start labeling.
They can bury some meta information to let us know.
Yeah,
and especially social media needs that. Well, the Facebook and places like that.
The meta stuff is if you're using a legitimate tool, right? They can all put meta information there. But if you're using something that's open sourced or whatever, there may be no meta information. You may just have to deal with it. But I don't know. It's gonna get it's gonna get. I don't want to say fun because I hate using that. It's gonna be interesting, and everybody's head needs to be on a swivel. We need to look at before we react to things and whatnot. Like this thing in Baltimore's sad. I mean, a principal just doing his job and somebody just fakes some audio and almost gets him fired.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
Yeah, unfortunately, this is the type of nightmarish stuff that can happen, and it really is a nightmare. Well, I can't even, it's my worries have always been people who get falsely imprisoned, and you find out years later. And this is sort of the same actions, because you're immediately being canceled by a group, and you're being at that point, your whole reputation is being destroyed.
In this case, this guy probably would have been blackballed from ever working in a school again after getting fired from a school district.
I found a little bit more information on that. On top of that, basically, he was investigating. It looks like he was investigating the athletic director for misusing school funds and theft. So this is retaliation for an investigation. And apparently the athletic director's contract had not been renewed, and that principal had actually fired a long-term coach without his approval. So this was just straight up this is a straight up retaliation.
Straight up retribution.
This goes back into a little bit about what we were talking about last week, which is the difference between what IT is and cybersecurity, and how it's a business strategy, and how you have to look at your key employees who might have the responsibility of termination, and that they can become victims of retaliation. So here you're talking about, well, people always say, what's the difference between what IT does and what cybersecurity? It's working not just with the tools, but also working with the HR department, working with legal, working with the whole executive team, because first of all, they lost a valuable employee that probably took them, when they recruited him to become the principal, how much did they invest in that individual that they have lost? On top of that, their school has become a news story, and his reputation, he's going to come back with, the insurance rates for this school are going to go skyrocketing. He's got to sue the school, or I would be surprised if he doesn't. If I'm not an attorney, but I would be assuming that there would be a case, that he'd have a case there for, the termination and for all the things that have happened to his reputation at this point. Yeah. And to not have things, and these are the things that you have to look at, to reduce the potential for, for an organization, the damage that can happen.
I think too, something to highlight is there was more people involved with this. They had data on what that guy had searched for. So in this case, this is actually, I don't want to say a good situation, but they found data where he'd used some AI tools and things like that at the school to create this. So they had like a level of
knowledge,
data and knowledge to actually base this on. And that's what they turned over to the police. Police got involved and they were able to do this. This is actually, I hate saying good, but this is the best case scenario, right? You were a victim of deepfake, but the person used school resources to do a lot of it. So there was evidence, and the school clearly was doing the right thing from a security perspective of keeping track of what people were browsing, where they were going, so that they could come back and replay that data later. Great. Good policy to have, especially for business stuff. But what if it wasn't that? What if he did it at home?
I'm surprised that the school even had some of that stuff. Because, we look at so many places that there's like, oh yeah, we just run it. We let them let everybody use their own computers, and we'll go there. But that's a topic for another day. Yeah. We are running a little long.
I think the thing that we're just, to Carl's point, we really want to highlight here is things like this, like having policies in place for let's say an AI policy, acceptable use policy, how you want to use AI in your business. It's a good thing to have. It's a good thing for all your employees to know about, because you never know what somebody's going to be using. And if you don't lean on that, you're going to have problems. And I'll share one last thing. I'm dealing with two prospects, and we'll kind of tie this all together. Both have been victims of cyber attacks. One was a ransomware attack. One was business email compromise that led to some pretty horrendous stuff happening. The one that has business email compromise gets the risk and wants to fix it. The one who got ransomware, their business was down for about 30 days, but they didn't really lose anything. I'm having trouble.
Well, they didn't lose any material, but they were down for 30 days.
Yeah, but the way their business is, it didn't really materially impact their business completely. Not like most businesses. I don't want to say what business they're in, but 30 days for them. It depends on what type of year it was, would be more impactful. Luckily, they got hit when it wasn't that impactful.
So they were, in a way, it was the best scenario for them. If you're going to get ransomware, this was the 1 in a million shot where they were able to dodge a bullet that was pointed at them.
Yeah, and backups sort of worked. They lost some data, but they didn't lose anything critical. The problem I have is trying to talk to that business owner and show them risk that they have, because they have risk. We found plenty of risk issues inside of their company, but the person just doesn't get it. And I think they think they're infallible, or they think they're invincible, basically, because they survived one cyber attack and they have insurance and they think that that's going to solve it. The problem is, and I illustrated this with them. I'm like, look, the stuff that we looked at on the insurance form that you filled out didn't match what the results of our cybersecurity risk assessment were. So in its event of an incident, a security incident, if you have a breach of some sort, they're probably not going to cover it.
At least not at the full rate.
No.
Yeah.
And the person's not getting it. And I'm trying to use a cybersecurity champion inside the company to relay that. And part of it is the owner is just more sales driven and is not the person that is the operational implementer component of the business. So it's a tough one. It's a tough challenge that all of us have, I think. Oh, you guys have the same challenge?
Every day.
Yeah.
Every day. People, like I've worked with people that have had breaches in the past, and, just trying to get policies together with them and implement them is an uphill battle. And, it's not our company that's going to have the issue. It's your company. And a second time around, do you really want to report in all 50 states again?
Yeah. I mean, this is one of the, I keep on coming back to numbers that are running in my head, which is 30 days. We know that after 10 days of not having access to your data, this just for the people listening, how lucky these people were. The national average is you lose your access to your data as a business for 10 or more days. 93% of those companies file for bankruptcy within a year. The other part of it is, I think it's in the high 60s, high 70%. Once you're breached, that the second time of being breached again is somewhere between 60 to 70%, usually within 6 months. Because what happens is when you get breached, you get put on, the bad guys sell that data on the open, on these black markets, and everybody's like, oh, where'd you get that from? We got it from XYZ company. And so they're like, oh, well, they didn't, that's good. Maybe we'll go directly to the source. And so, unfortunately, that's what starts happening.
And unfortunately, that's what I'm dealing with right now. So I'm trying to do the best I can to help their business, but sometimes we come across executives that just.
Well, we can't help everyone, you know that. And
damn it, I'm going to try.
All we can do is educate them.
We'll try.
You can try.
This is going to help. If you turn around, fellow listeners, and Chris will be right behind you.
So I think the parting comment I have is, guys, that principal at the school board at the school was able to, they were able to figure out that it wasn't something that he did based on policies, procedures, and processes that school system had in place. If this happened to your company today, could you prove that? Do you have any documentation on what your employees are doing, where they've been? Because that's what ultimately saved this guy.
Literally saved his life.
Yeah, really. To that point, yeah. Let's end on this note. If you don't have a program in your security program in your company, how will you ever defend your company if you have an incident? That could be an
When?
insider steal. It could be an insider threat. It could be a piece of hardware failing that you lost a bunch of data. How is that defensible to your customers? How is that defensible to your employees? How is that defensible to maybe your insurance company? How is it defensible to you and your family? So if you own the business, if you're a principal in the business or you're an investor in the business, simple things that you do today can save you a whole lot of heartache and money down the road later. You just got to be prepared for it.
Cool.
All right.
All right, guys. Let's wrap it up, and
Yeah,
I will see you guys next week.
Yeah, see you next week.
Absolutely, guys. Take care. Be safe.